Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is Station. We are ready for the event.
WHDH-TV, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Yeah. Hey guys, this is David Tanklevsky with 7 News in Boston. Can you guys hear me okay?
I sure can. How us?
I'm doing great. Thanks for agreeing to join with us. I figured I'd just start with the silliest question of all, which is, did you guys have a chance to watch the Super Bowl? And Scott, I know you're from the Boston area, so what are your thoughts?
Hey, so being from New England, I'll always be a fan whether they win or lose. And I thought it was a great game, and they worked really hard. And we're looking forward to next year where they can get it back.
And you guys did have it. Were you able to watch it from up there?
We had it set up, and we did watch the game for as long as we could. I unfortunately had to go to sleep a little bit right before it ended, and I was not happy with the results when I woke up. But like I said, we're looking forward to next year, and we appreciate all the hard work that they do to bring us a great football game.
Awesome. All right. Well, I was wondering if you guys could talk a little bit about the status of the mission. I know, Scott, you've been up there for a couple of weeks, and Mark, you've been there a little bit longer. So can you talk just to the layman about kind of what you guys are doing up there, the different kinds of projects, and kind of the basics of what it's like up there?
Well, sure. There's lots of things we're doing. One, we're living as humans in space, and that's always a challenge because that's not our natural environment. We make it as natural as we can. We're also doing maintenance and support of the systems up here, the life support systems and the International Space Station itself. We're also that's inside and outside. We're also doing a lot of science with the several experiments that are happening up here. So the days are full and they're busy, and some of the most rewarding days I've ever had.
Can you guys describe what your expectations, the differences between your expectations and the reality? I know for both of you, it's your first space flight.
David, for me, it's a lot more than I expected. In fact, it's kind of, when I first arrived up here, it was hard to grasp seeing the view of the Earth from up here. Quite honestly, the workload's been more than I expected, but of course, as Scott mentioned, that's very rewarding. It's such a unique, amazing experience that I think the fact that I took so many pictures up here is going to help me believe that I actually did it.
Can you guys talk about the experience of launching in the Soyuz vehicle and how that linked up with the International Space Station? Was that smooth sailing? Were there any issues that were involved in either of your launches?
No major issues at all. It was actually very smooth. The Russians have their program very squared away. It's tried and proven over decades of their operation, and it was phenomenal. The actual launch, we went out there. My launch was in the winter. When I got out to the rocket, it was a lot of fog around the rocket because they just got done fueling it, and so you walk into this fog, and then you're going up the elevator, and it's a really small elevator, and it shakes and rattles, and it's really surreal, and it's hard to believe that, wow, in just another few hours I'm going to be in space. and got in the rocket. We got strapped in. It's a very tight fit. We got settled, did the systems test, and then we launched. And the launch was phenomenal. It was very smooth. After the second stage burned out, you get thrown forward in your straps a little bit, and then you get, as the third stage kicks in, you get kicked back in your seat a little. It's kind of like a catapult shot off the carrier. And then after that, we were off into low Earth orbit, and the actual insertion was very smooth. Docking was very smooth. No issues for myself and for Mark's flight, as far as I know. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I also was very impressed with how smooth the flight was. In fact, the windows are small, and we were so well trained. It seemed a lot like the simulator, other than the jerking forward and backwards when the stages changed. What struck me when we approached the space station, when I saw out the window the solar arrays, and they were brilliantly gold in the sun and so huge. I knew the logic behind how big they were, but emotionally seeing that as we were passing by those solar arrays, that was a really neat moment for me as well.
Mark, you mentioned emotionally, can you each describe the feelings that you kind of go through on a day-to-day basis? Are there things that really, cause you to miss home? What's your sort of spiritual and emotional status while you're up there?
I'd say probably the most important thing for us up here is the camaraderie we have with each other. All of my crewmates have wonderful senses of humor, and sometimes things can be frustrating when we make a mistake or we can't find something, things like that. And being able to give each other a hard time or crack jokes with each other has really been a great way to ground ourselves and keep each other sane, quite honestly.
Yeah, I concur with what Mark just said. It's all about the camaraderie up here. We work together to get the timeline and get all the activities done on a daily basis so that we can keep the program running strong and hard. We set some time aside to communicate with our families and keep up with what's going on down there. We realize that 6 months sounds like a long time, but when it's all said and done, we're going to look behind us and be in wonder on how fast it went by. So we're trying to enjoy it as much as we can. We're trying to be as productive as we can, and reveling in the camaraderie and the stories that we'll tell our grandkids someday.
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed you have some UMass Dartmouth and Randolph, Mass paraphernalia behind you. Did you guys each bring some things from home to kind of stay connected while you're up there? What else do we got there?
Well, this is all Maker paraphernalia. He's a proud New Englander, if I'm saying that correctly. And yes, we all have personal items that we brought up either from loved ones or organizations that have helped us get to where we are. Even care packages that people have sent up on the various spacecraft that have arrived, cards or pictures of our family members have been very meaningful to have and help us keep connected with the ground.
And I haven't lived in New England for quite a while, but you never forget where you come from, and that's home. And Randolph is hometown for me. I still have family and friends there, and I'm proud of having that in my past.
I think we've got about 90 seconds, so I guess I'll ask each of you, what do you think your takeaway from this experience will be, and what's your message for people back home about the work you're doing on the ISS?
My takeaway from this is that the Earth seems like a smaller place that's more delicate. The thin layer of atmosphere that encompasses all the life that we're familiar with does seem very, very thin on this massive object that the Earth is. So that will always stick with me. And I really want people to recognize that we've had continued human in space for more than a decade. And our space program is going strong, and we're getting ready to do some amazing things in the future.
Yeah, and my takeaway is almost the same. It's absolutely a phenomenal, beautiful view out the window, and how delicate our Earth is. We need to take care of it, but also that our human spaceflight program is alive and well. The international partnership is alive and well, and we're going to do great things in the future with more distant, deep space locations. I can't wait to see it all come together.
Great. Thank you guys so much. Have a safe time up there and safe trip back.
Thank you.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the WHDH-TV portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from Bloomberg Bay State Radio.
This is Tom Maroney. How do you hear me?
Hi, Tom. We got you loud and clear. How do you hear us?
Well, thank you. Scott, Tingle, want to start with you. You're well-trained. You're a Navy captain with advanced degrees. You're the father of 3. You're ready for anything. What surprises you most about being up there?
The thing that surprises, it's not surprising, but the thing I'm in awe of up here is the amazing team that keeps our space program running on a day-to-day basis. This machine is an engineering marvel, and the machine includes hundreds and thousands of people that keep it running on a day-to-day basis. And the way that we all work together to achieve the objectives on a day-to-day basis is just absolutely phenomenal.
Would you remind us how long you've been up there and if everything's been going smoothly, if there have been any glitches?
I got up here on December 19th, and the date to go home is June 3rd. Mark's been up here for a few months longer than that. So far, it's been pretty smooth. Not a whole lot of glitches. We've done a lot of great work. We had several spacewalks from the time frame that Mark got here till last week, and we expect some more good work in the future.
Can you guys tell us about the science that you're doing up there, the experiments you're conducting, and what they may mean for the space program, and what commercial applications they might eventually have here on Earth?
So at any given time, we've got 200 to 300 experiments up here. We really are kind of like laboratory technicians. So the scientists are on the ground, and they're doing the data analysis and designing the experiments. We kind of serve as the way to make sure their gear is running. The things that I've enjoyed the most are the things that I actually get to see in progress. For example, we've got Scott and I were just talking a little while ago about a Japanese robot to our left that has a video camera, and they're trying to make sure they understand how to get that potentially as something that they can fly around in the space station to do observations. We've got a combustion facility up here, a potential commercial application as we better understand how to make combustion more efficient is that in the future we may have, it may contribute to having cleaner burning and combustion engines in the future, which of course would have huge significance.
Gentlemen, I take a look at these experiments as a layman, and I wonder why these have to be done in space. For instance, measuring the total amount of sunlight the Earth receives, gathering data on self-replicating materials. Again, I'm not up on the science here. Tell us why it's significant to do these things where you are.
Well, take, for example, growing plants and germinating seeds. When you're on Earth, you know what some of the variables are, but gravity is one of those variables. Pollution is another, and when you're in space, you can eliminate those variables and look at some other very specific variables that maybe you want to help create a stronger seed or a stronger food for plants to help germinate and to have them grow faster. And so being able to do the science up in space where is a much more controllable environment, and where there are less interactions with gravity and the other things on Earth. It makes the science a little bit more easy to corroborate and to kind of get through, so that we can kind of come up with some good parametric equations and processes to make our products better on Earth.
And to give you a concrete example of how something behaves differently in space, again, about the combustion, because of buoyant forces that we experience on the Earth's surface that we don't have on the space station where everything is equally floating, hot combustion gases don't rise away from a flame. So it's harder to create a flame in space, and we've discovered that because of that different behavior, as it doesn't suck in the oxygen-rich gases like you would have a flame on the ground do. It tends to choke itself out because the combustion gases don't float away. But in the process of studying that and understanding how that works in an environment that's different from the Earth, we're learning more about the physics of how combustion works. And as we get more into the weeds about how things work or how our models behave, we can get surprising benefits from those.
Tell us about your spacewalks. How long are they, and what do they look like?
So my spacewalks have all largely included replacing the latching end effectors on our Canadian robotic arm. Scott and I did the most recent one, and that's exactly what we did, which is really neat work to be able to improve the ability of the space station to capture visiting vehicles and make sure that ability lasts well into the future. The most recent one we did, we were really surprised when we found out that we spent more than 7 hours doing our spacewalk, because I think we had some pretty restful moments in there while we were waiting for the ground to finish some of their work. And so we felt pretty comfortable. We certainly didn't think we were outside working hard for 7+ hours by the time it was done.
Scott, I wanted to follow up on that. That was a spacewalk on January 23rd, and I was surprised too. 7 hours and 24 minutes is what we read here on Earth. Did you encounter space debris out there? I mentioned to some folks I know that we were going to talk to you, and they brought up the movie Gravity, of course, where they're pelted with space debris. Did you see any, and is that a concern?
No, we didn't see any space debris, but yes, it is a concern. There are literally millions of objects in space from decades, and so we track as much as we can, and we design the space station to be as resilient against micrometeorite types or space junk as much as we can for that. But if we have to, we will move the station up or down in its orbit to create a good miss distance. And we have all those procedures are standard, and a couple of times a year we get ready for a movement, and every once in a while we do move the station just to create a good miss distance. But on the outside of the station, there are little divots all over the place from micrometeorites. Some of them man-made, most of them not. That hit the space station, and over time, it's going to happen. The universe isn't totally clean, so we manage it.
Scott and Mark, just to wrap up here, don't want to cause any tension among the teammates up there on the space station, but got to ask about two things. One, Mark, tell us what Scott, as a Massachusetts native, brings to the party, and I'm thinking here, Yankee ingenuity. And two, did you guys have any disagreements about the Super Bowl?
So first I'll talk about the Super Bowl. We were rooting for opposite teams, but that wasn't an issue at all. We were just having fun. Yeah. Scott Tingle definitely brings Yankee ingenuity. He's helped me replace a radiator in my car, for example, and he's a great guy to have up on the space station for many more reasons than just understanding how things work very well. I very lovingly said recently that to another one of our classmates that having Scott up here was like having an energy bomb. When he shows up in the room, the place just lights up, and everyone feels a little bit happier.
Okay, Bloomberg Radio, yeah. I guess that will do it for us, gentlemen. Thank you for your time today. I can't believe this reception. It's so clear.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, and it is clear, and it was an honor to talk to you today. Thanks for your interest.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you all participants from WHDH-TV and Bloomberg Radio. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.